Hit and record. 3, 2, 1. Okay, here it is. We are live with the Bid Nerds. Welcome to another episode. My name is John Polnik. We are coming to you live from beautiful downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. I said we, but actually me. That's where I'm at. My partner right next to me over there is Michael Deeb. He's coming to you live from San Francisco, California. We're here. This is the channel where two guys basically talk about what's going on cars and bids and bring a trailer. We discuss our favorite top picks of the channels and the platforms, and we make predictions, and we want you to join us in those predictions to see how we do. Michael Deeb, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, JP. What's going on, man?
Well, one of the things that we do on the channel is we talk about, we predict what we think the cars are going to go for, and then we keep track of that, and we kind of go over it the next day. And so I'm going to quickly go over our predictions from yesterday and see how we did. And I will say, once again, this week has not been good to me. I think I need to mainline this coffee.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do better. Okay, so I really got hammered again. Monday I got whacked, and Tuesday was no better for me. Yesterday we started off the show talking about a 94 BMW 850 CSI. That's the 12-cylinder version on CNB. That's Cars and Bids. Michael Deeb, you guessed it would come in at 128. That's 128,000. My prediction was a little softer. I predicted 124,000. I think those cars are amazing. There was awesome photography, but that car was a no sale at $108,000. So that was the only one that I won.
And I will assert that I think our bids were in the right neighborhood, and that car was on the wrong platform, and that's it. That car didn't get where it should have, and it's worth the money we were talking about. Go on.
For sure. Let's see here. The next car was a 1973 Porsche 911T on Bring a Trailer. You predicted 117. I was a little light at 115, and it turns out we were both very off. Even though you won this, I don't really believe either of us would have deserved a win being this far off. That car went for $156,000, which, wow. I mean, Bring a Trailer really knows how to sell a Porsche.
Yeah, late action, and that's the type of car I think in the future you will see us jump on as that auction is closing to see the closing action. That car had a lot of room left to go, and it's a great preservation class example of a 911T.
Yep. Let's see. The third car we talked about was a 1978 Datsun 280Z on Bring a Trailer. You predicted 19,000. I was a little stronger on it, and honestly, I wasn't that strong on it when we first started. But you kind of convinced me. I don't know if you're gaslighting me or whatever. You said 19. I said 21, and that car sold for $17,750. So I think we were both kind of in the ballpark, but I was So that was a good job there, Deeb. This next car, a 2002 Ford Thunderbird. This car had very low miles, right? I believe it had like 22,000 miles or something on Bring a Trailer. Black on black.
4,000 miles.
4,000, so four-figure mileage. So almost delivery, well, not delivery mileage, but collectible mileage. We were both really strong on this car. You said 27.5. I said 29. I thought it had legs underneath it. And you won that, even though you were pretty strong on it too. It only sold for 23,000, which I think is actually a pretty good deal for a collectible car like that.
Absolutely, and that car was sitting at like 21,000, so it had like two more bids and closed. So whatever, I'm just surprised it sold for so little.
Really had no late action on that. And the last vehicle was a ton of fun. It was an AMG H1 Hummer on Cars and Bids, and this one wasn't just your regular Hummer. It had a big old camper on it. I mean, this was the total bug-out vehicle. I still want to live in that car. I offered to trade the guy one of my 911s. It's a good thing I didn't. You predicted it would go for 42,000. I predicted 47. I was pretty strong on it, given the state of the world right now and our zombie apocalypse. It did sell, but it only got up to $36,500. So that said, with those 5 vehicles, our predictions, you were closer on 4 of them. So you get the 4 points to my 1. That gives you 8 points on the week. to my 2. I am buried here, guys. I got to start like getting these right, and then maybe even getting some right on the money so I can get an asterisk. That gets me double points for those of you who are playing at home. All right,
Yeah.
Deeb, let's get to the cars and see if I can catch up. What's our first car of the day?
All right, JP, your first opportunity is on Cars and Bids. This is a 2007 BMW M5. This car is offered by the seller who bought it off Tyler Hoovey, Tyler Hoover of Hoovey's Garage, who I think you know pretty well. I love this generation of car. I had a 2008 that was fully loaded in black on black. I crashed that car twice, by the way, which is part of the reason why I don't like black cars. But these have the V10, a 7-speed SMG, sequential manual gearbox. This is a single-clutch automatic with paddle shifters. You can leave it in automatic mode, or you can shift it either manually with the shifter or with the paddles behind the steering wheel. I loved my car, but had rotten luck in it all the time. But it was a blast to drive. The gearbox really does kind of hold it back. The single plate gearboxes, the single clutch gearboxes kind of are herky-jerky. Even in automatic mode, they're not very smooth. I don't think they make great everyday cars, which most of the people that bought these tried to use for. That being said, a lot of these cars are long out of warranty. They've been traded down to values where some of the buyers might do all the service, all the. So it's nice to see a clean, well cared for example. This one here is offered in Indianapolis red, which is a very rare, unusual color. It's offered out of Coppell, Texas, and Doug DeMiro lists quite a bit of recent service history that this car has been treated to. Too much to list here, but it's got a new clutch, a new flywheel. And they've changed all the fluids throughout the car. So I would say this car is about as mechanically refreshed as you could ever hope to find, and yet it sits on 13 bids at just $9,600 with 107,000 miles, again out of Texas. The Tyler Hoovey's old M5, the V10.
Yeah, these cars really are fun to drive. That V10 engine is silky smooth and fast and powerful and all the things that you want a sport BMW to be. But reliability is not one of the things that goes with this platform. You know that Tyler Hoovey, having owned this car, that's probably a good thing for whoever buys it, because Hoovey basically buys them in poor condition, spends way too much money with his mechanic, the Wizard, or I believe his BMW guy is the Ninja, and they just spend all the money in the world fixing everything, and then he sells it. So, you know, it'd be interesting to have gone back and looked at maybe the video that Tyler did on this, or videos that he did on the car. We have a mutual friend, Shane Does Stuff on Instagram. He had one of these a couple years ago, and he parked it out in front of his girlfriend's house for the evening, and someone ran into it overnight, like a drunk person was trying to park their car, and they didn't smash into it. Like, there was hardly any damage in it. They just like pulled behind it and pushed the car like a car length or two. So the rear bumper was kind of messed up, but the thing is, the car was in park, and it ruined the transmission on that car. The SMG just is not something that can take any kind of weirdness. So I mean, it literally totaled the car, even though the car looked fine. All it needed was a bumper cosmetically, but it was a nightmare getting that thing sorted out. But yeah, I mean, when these drive great, they're super fun to drive. This is a beautiful looking one. Not my color, but I know most people really like that. So
yeah, it's interesting. You know, the seller here claims to have spent a ton of money on the car in service, and only bought the car last year. So I'd be curious to know what it was Hoovey did to prepare this car before he sold it, because clearly the next owner had a lot of work left to do to get all the maintenance and services up to date, so that this car is basically turnkey, and it's just arrive and drive. And I will also say it's very interesting. There were a couple of V10s in the marketplace at this time period. Lexus made the LFA, and it also came only with a single clutch SMG, a sequential manual gearbox. And Lamborghini and Audi offered the R8 and Huracan, what's the other one? But anyway, they offered those V10s, and they also had single plate gearboxes. So it's a shame. Yeah, the Gallardo. It's amazing that we never got a V10 really with like a manual. This did come in a manual, but very few people took it. It's kind of
you could get the manual in the M6 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you could get the manual in this as well. It was just
super rare.
Yeah.
Okay, so in its current, and it also looked like the headliner was kind of sagging, and
that's a bummer.
I mean, the thing is, the other thing too is that Hoovy doesn't necessarily buy good cars in the first place. He usually looks for stuff that's in sad shape. His claim to fame is this is the dumbest YouTube channel, and I buy hoopties. I buy cheap cars and fix them up or whatever. The cheapest BMW M5 is this boy, BMWs of this era, that complexity. I mean, yeah, what's your bid?
So I still believe in the car simply because I owned one and loved it. 500 horsepower, and these things rev. It's a blast to drive. It'd just be great if it's your second car. So I'm going to go $12,500, and I think it sells there.
Okay, yeah, you got to wonder if the car having been owned by Hoovy gives it a bump, or if it makes it go. So what were you, 12.5?
12.5.
Yeah. So man, I'm gonna say it stalls out and go 11.5.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I'm scared of this car. I mean, the way I'm looking at this is, it's like, where would I go, I guess. So, yeah, all right, moving on, next car.
Right, okay, cool. So let's jump over to Bring a Trailer.
Okay.
JP, we're looking at a 1988 Porsche 911 Carrera Targa. The 88 has the G50 gearbox. This car is offered in Venetian blue. And I just want to start by saying, JP, when somebody says the word Porsche, I think of one car and one car only, and it's this car. It's a G-bodied Targa. Yep. And you have to understand, growing up in San Francisco, on the weekends when I would spend time with my dad, because my parents were separated, occasionally we would drive over the Golden Gate Bridge and go to have brunch in Tiburon. And when you were driving into Tiburon, inevitably you would be behind a G-bodied 911 with some cool guy and his blonde girlfriend. I mean, this was in the 80s when I was in high school. This was the car, and to me, this is the epitome of Porsche and reason why they became successful and the brand they are today. So, I just think this is the most iconic car. This color is stunning. JP, I grew up in San Francisco. I knew you grew up in Seattle. Yep. The majority of these photos are taken on an overcast day, and that Venetian blue looks like a slate gray. And yet there's other photos in the listing that show the car in the sunlight, and this color is very different in natural light, which I think it speaks to how cool this particular car is. I love it. The car has been repainted. It's been re-leathered. It only has 83,000 miles. However, it's offered out of Lewis Center, Ohio, which is probably buried in snow this week. So kind of a neat car, kind of poor timing. It has been repainted, but it doesn't seem like in the comments that's holding this car back from its originality, because it's just done to a really nice standard and has been worked on by some reputable technicians. So here's a very nice G50 Carrera Targa.
Man, you don't see that bisque interior like that clean hardly ever. Usually it's just roached out. My first Porsche 911 was an 88 Targa. So yes, I absolutely couldn't agree more. I think this is the pinnacle of Porsche. I don't think you get a better car than this. Right. Now, of course, they're faster, more powerful, more. But if you just want to pick one Porsche to own, boy, I don't think you could go wrong with this. Having the top come off, but still have those lines of the Targa, still have the visibility that comes around the back. I mean, this is just, it gets me excited about it. And that G50 silky smooth transmission, it's the easiest of the transmissions on the air-cooled cars. Really significantly different. If you don't know 911s, if you drive an SE or a Carrera or any of the older ones, the older transmissions are great, but they do take some skill to find gear sometimes, whereas the G50 is super, super smooth and easy to shift through. Okay, so yes, we could wax on this car all day. I think both of us love this car. Oh my God.
Such a beautiful car.
So just under 2 hours to go. $45,000 is where it's sitting right now. We've got about 17 bids. What's your bid, Michael Deeb?
Yeah, so last night this car was at $43,000 on 15 bids, but it is creeping up. I believe in the car, and it doesn't seem like the repaint is holding this car back. I think initially I was thinking under 50, but man, the more I look at it, I think it's going to go over. I'm gonna jump out on a limb a little bit and say that I think this car brings $53,000 and sells.
Man, that's exactly where I was going to go. So do I go under you or over you? Okay, well, I'm going to play it really close to you and go under. You said 53,000. I'm going to go 52.5. I'm going to go right up your butt.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to edit that one out.
I'm needing an asterisk on that. Okay, so one of the let's go to the next car and then we'll talk about our sponsor.
Okay, cool. Really quickly, actually, this probably won't take a quick time. This is a 1973 Alfa Romeo Junior Zagato 1600. Now, JP, in the late 60s, Alfa made the GTV Coupe and the Duetto Spider, the boat tail Spider. Those were built on the 105 series platform, and Alfa made 2,000 Junior Zagatos, 1,600 of which were 1,300 cc's built on that platform. But this car is one of 400 that were built on the later Alfa Spider camtail, early 70s 115 platform, and therefore this is a very rare car. The way the pedals hinge, they're not floor mounted. They come from above, like under the dashboard kind of thing. The brakes are bigger. The taillights are different. The whole platform is essentially different. And that makes kind of a rare car. Junior got most of Alfa's Spiders were built by Pinfrida, and they're built by Tony. So this car being built by Design House Zagato was very unusual. It is shorter wheelbase, lighter weight, lower center of gravity, and yet very rigid because it's a coupe, yet still built on the Spider platform. So these are probably one of the best driving Alfas outside of a GTA from that era. This car is offered by a seller out of Berkeley who works, I think, either alongside or for Conrad Stevens, who's one of the most reputable Alfa mechanics in Northern California. And this car was brought over from Sicily. It has been moved from a 1,600 cc motor. In period, it was replaced by a 2-liter motor to European specification. So 5-speed manual, disc brakes, 2-liter, probably making about 125 horsepower. And I'm guessing that this car weighs really close to 2,000 pounds. So this is a fantastic, rare driving Alfa out of Berkeley, California, the Junior Zagato with a 2-liter.
You have talked about Spiders and how poorly they drive, and you're saying that this one is on a Spider chassis, essentially. Right. How does this one drive so much better, or does it? Or how does it compare to a Spider?
It does. Yeah, given the choice, a Spider is a great cars and coffee car. But if you're going to go do Sandy in Vegas, or if we're going to go do a professor run, a GTV, a coupe, is so much more rigid a car that when you start to put sway bars and frame rails and things on it, those cars really come alive and they handle very well. So think of this car as a lighter weight, shorter wheelbase GTV, and you begin to understand what a phenomenal driving car this could be when you're going to attack your favorite back road. Spiders are great cars for in period, but they do flex a little bit, and they're not really safe because they don't have a roll hoop. So when we really go and we're attacking, when we're trying to keep up with Ben or Rami, this is the car you'd want to be in, a coupe from Alfa in that period. And these cars are one of the most exceptional drivers they made.
What an amazing looking car too! Look at that rear window. Look at them. Well, it's weird, huh? Go ahead.
Yeah, the guy who designed the Honda CRX owned a Junior Zagato.
Is that right? Okay. So I mean, some of the if you know anything about design, there are a lot of things that are on paper that are completely wrong from a design point of view. I mean, there are specific edge-to-edge there are specific relationships when you talk about shapes and how lines go together. There are specific rules, and it's okay if you know those rules, you can break them. But sometimes you look at something like, especially with the Italian stuff from this era, you just go, did they even know the rules? Were they just breaking them and got lucky, or are they just absolute aesthetic geniuses? I mean, mean, look at this line. If you look at the top of the door, you've got the front door. You got this line right here. This line goes at a downward angle and is closer to so this point where it goes on the upswing down here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor. From here to the bottom of the car is a shorter distance than it is from here to here. On any other car, on any other design, you would want this angle to be parallel with the bottom angle of the car so that you have a relationship that is like that. But instead, you've got this weird cockeyed thing. And if someone explained that to you, you'd be like, that is so wrong. It looks like they tried to put they had this door already designed for some other car and just, but it works. It works. And so, and the way like this top line here goes across the glass, but then the horizontal piece kind of warps over into this side. It's just messed up, but beautiful at the same time. I love the way this car looks. I have to admit, this is not a car I'm very familiar with, but I'm glad you chose it, and we got to learn something today. You have the advantage on this one. What's your bid?
Yeah, so two things. I only take issue with this as a Zagato because Zagato's signature design cue is a double bubble roof. Think of the Dodge Viper. The Dodge Viper copied a Zagato design. And this car seems to lack that, whereas almost every other Zagato you'll ever find has the double bubble roof. That's my only take on this car. Here's the thing.
From the back, it looks like a Opel Manta.
A little bit. Or a Saab Sonnet. Yeah. So the gist of it is this. Zagatos at the top of the market, concourse condition, would be a $75,000 to $85,000 car. Really nice Zagatos should bring in the high 50s. Think 55 to 60,000. With that being said, the market is a little soft right now. I was sort of thinking that this car might not break 50. Then I read the comments. It seems like there is a community, not a lot of action, not a lot of bids. A few people that are watching this car seem to really understand both the rarity of the 1600 Zagato versus 1300 and the people who are representing it. So for that reason, I am going to break my written bid and go $52,000.
Wow. Okay. That's a long way to go at 38. So with about 3.5 hours to go, I mean, you're telling me some of the values here, and I have to just go with what you're saying. But then, the only thing I can really go on is how much traffic, where the car is. It definitely seems like it's in the right place of the country. I mean, if anybody that wants this car, the person that wants this car is probably in that neck of the woods, your neck of the woods. So I'm sorry, what was your number?
So I said 52, but originally I had written 48. I didn't think it was going to break 50, but the comments lead me to believe that there are people watching this car, and so I think it will break $50,000. It should be worth a little more. I'm
going to go with your gut and go with the 48 and blame you when I get it wrong.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so before we go to the next car, I'd like to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, GYX Customs. GYX Customs is a brand of custom-made bracelets for men. They're bracelets for guys who love machines. If you're into cars, if you're into watches, they make a complete line of different bracelets that are handmade here in America. There's no sweatshops. These beads, every single bead is put together on the string by one person who designs every one of them for the specific customer in mind. They have a whole line of these bracelets. You can see here on the Instagram page that's spelled GYX Customs. That's _ customs. And it's pronounced guys. So you can see, like, here's one. We've got one that's specifically for a Pepsi dial Rolex GMT. You can see that the beads are specifically matched to that watch. You've got the Porsche design monoblock titanium actuator, and you have real titanium beads with the blue dial matching the blue bead. These are all, again, hand selected and matched to the colors of the watches and the cars. You can even order paint to sample beads. So if you have a lizard green 911 and you want a a bracelet that matches, you can get that. They have those for you. If you want a Mexico blue or a Gulf livery, they can match the beads exactly. You give them the paint. You give them your paint code, and they will make a custom bracelet for you. I am wearing right here. I've got a Marathon. I guess you call this watch a search and rescue, and I'm pairing that with it's got the titanium. This bracelet and this watch are made for each other. I don't know if you can really see that very well. I'm having a hard time with the camera here. There we go. Everything's opposite. Yeah. So Deeb, I think you have a couple of them too. Yeah.
I own 3 or 4, I think, and I've already gifted 3 or 4. And I'm gonna order my first paint to sample. I'm gonna get a black beaded bracelet with a couple of stones that'll be Rubino wrought metallic to match my '84 Carrera in ruby. So it's gonna be pretty sick. I can't wait till I get my new bracelet to go with my car, my 911.
At GYX Customs on Instagram. That's the only place you can get them right now. They are, again, handmade. If you order, I think by the middle of next week, you can still get them by Christmas. All right, so there it is, GYX_Customs. That's Guys Customs on Instagram for your bracelets made for men who love machines. Let's get back to the cars, Michael Deeb. What do we got next?
Okay, so we're going to stay on Bring a Trailer, but we are going to travel to Woodbridge, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, you and your Canadian cars. What is the deal, man?
What in the hell is up there? So this is a super cool no-reserve 1990 Volkswagen Golf GTI 16V, the beautiful Mark II. This is, JP, I think you agree with me. This is my favorite generation for the GTI. Outside of getting a brand new Golf R, this would be my favorite GTI. I loved these cars when I was in high school. And yet I've never owned one, which is hard to imagine. My uncle sold Volkswagen, and I somehow never got one as a Christmas present. Thanks, Dad. The cars in Canada showing 161,000 kilometers, which is literally 100,000 miles. The Mark II GTIs have super cool Recaro velour interior that JP, you and I both adore.
Yes.
The cars have the BBS wheels, 5-speed manual. They only make 135 horsepower, but they feel so much more than that. The cars are lightweight, they're nimble, they're great drivers. And the big thing in the United States is, JP, tell our audience, where do you go to find a car like this in the United States that's this well preserved and in this original condition? I just don't know, or I'd own one at this point. I love the cars. You never see them. They never come online. I don't know where you go to find good preserved Volkswagens. Most have been modified and driven into the ground. And so this car, despite being in Canada, is already at $7,000, $6,990 on like 13 bids. And $8,000 to $10,000 would be all the money for this car if it were in the U.S. As far as values, book values. But I think this car is going to bring more because there just simply isn't another one in the marketplace anywhere in the United States at this moment. Therefore, I think this car is going to bring over book value, and we'll see if somebody's going to go through the trouble of importing it back to the United States. There you go. Mark II GTI.
Car, Mark II GTIs are great. I prefer the 8-valve of this generation.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, I really do. I think it's got a little torquier, little bit more. Because these aren't really top-end cars, right? You're not. I mean, so the 16 valve is going to get you all the power in the last couple of RPMs. So you're just, who cares about those top-end speeds? This is about autocross, so you need a little bit of torque in that front-wheel drive. You're going to be torque steering anyway. But that said, both engines are great. Yes, this car, you said it's preserved. I don't know if I would use that word. I would say unmolested is certainly the case, but well-preserved? I don't know. This car is looking pretty East Coasty to me.
Yeah, I thought the photograph and where they photographed the car, how they photographed the car, the day they photographed the car does not do it any help. But the more I looked at this car, and I've gone back and looked at this car twice, it's really not dinged up. I'm sure the car was repainted at some point a while ago. But it's just like all the pieces are there. It doesn't look like any trim's missing. There's no stains anywhere. The seats are in good condition. And so it just seems I've come to grow to think that it's pretty well preserved for a car that's got 100,000 miles.
Well, look at these rings around, the headlight rings. They've got the corrosion on there. This stuff is all peppered up, which again, not a big deal, but it looks like it's been driven, which is great, which is what you want these cars to be done. And I don't get me wrong, I love the car, but there's some rust and some weird spots. I don't think this is a premium. Yeah, it's great because it's not because it's unmolested, but I don't really believe that this car is in really that good a condition. But like you said, there aren't any. Finding one is going to be pretty tough. So, but getting it across the border, boy, what happened with the car that we talked about yesterday that was across the border? How'd that go?
It sold. Let me see. That was the it was the Datsun, and actually it came under. So I said 19, you said 21, and what I was suggesting is that car would bring 24 to 28,000 if it were in the U.S. and it stalled out under $18,000. So
all right. So what's your bid on this one? With 11, there are 11 bids so far. We got almost 4 hours left. $69.90.
Yeah, $69.90. So you're talking me out of my bid. I put 11.5. I'm going to go $10,500.
All right, I'm gonna go 9,500. I don't think it breaks 10. I think it. I think this is a fantastic. If it were in California, it'd be a whole different story. Because someone would be able to get a hold of it and love it. But we'll see. Okay.
All right.
Let's move on. We have very little time, so let's go to the last car.
All right, so our audience is probably wondering why you and I are both wearing camo snapbacks this morning, and that's because we are going to look at a 1973 Steyr-Puch Pinzgauer.
Pinzgauer,
a 710M, which is technically, and I wrote this down, a troop carrier. This military-grade vehicle was built out of Austria. The vehicles came with an air-cooled 2.5-liter inline-4 mated to a 5-speed manual that came with 2-speed transfer case and 3 locking diffs, which is
3 locking diffs.
Yeah. Did I say?
No. I'm just accentuating that. You got it right.
3, not just 1, not 2, but 3 locking diffs, which means basically you could drive this car anywhere, and I mean anywhere. The company was bought out of receivership by a UK company in 2000. But it's interesting to note that this car comes from Austria, where they have made for a long time very reliable military-grade vehicles that they have sent all over the world. This vehicle is showing 33,000 miles, but I'd be willing to believe it's probably got a few more than that. Very neat vehicle. There has been some camper conversion. There's a photo where it looks like somebody puts a roof-mounted tent on top of it. So if you want to be the do-all, be-all, and go anywhere to camp, this is your vehicle. If you didn't get the Hummer yesterday, this might be the coolest, weirdest camper vehicle, all-terrain, anything you can buy. I'm not familiar with the company, but anyway, there it goes. It's out of Leavenworth, Washington, by the way. Which
that is, that's very near my hometown. That's just nestled in the Cascade Mountains. Leavenworth is a place where this little town, it looks like the Alps because all the buildings are required by city ordinance to look Bavarian. So even the McDonald's has like Bavarian fonts and everything like that. Everything has to be approved to look Bavarian. It's awesome. They've got a great
all painted shutters and flower boxes, right?
Absolutely. Not even kidding. That's absolutely the truth. Leavenworth. Okay, so I don't know this car. I don't know it particularly, but I can guarantee you that I have seen this car in person.
Oh wow!
So every year there's an event called the what the heck is that called? The Mogfest. Yeah. It's a celebration of European off-road vehicles, and it's down in Oregon, just outside of Portland, in Sheridan, Oregon, very near our good friend Rod Emery's home camp. And every year you'll get about 200 vehicles to camp for about a week on this massive property. They dig a huge hole in the middle of this huge field and put all these like obstacles and mountains, and then they put these big moon towers up so people can do technical four-wheeling all night till 1 in the morning. And you see Pinzgauers and Unimogs and, of course, Rovers, Volkswagen things, anything European built for off-road. And I've seen these in action, and because this one's in Leavenworth, I guarantee it's been to Mogfest. boy, if I were going to try to sell this thing, I would try to sell it like early summer when people are thinking about, Mogfest this year. This is about as far away from that as you can get. But
I'm guessing the guy doesn't want to pay to store it this winter, so he's just trying to offload it.
I mean, geez, if you want to go through an apocalypse, this is definitely the vehicle to drive. I mean, these are very easy to repair, just like an old Land Rover Series 1 or 2. You can repair it with bubble gum, duct tape, and a paper clip. But not powerful, not fast, not something you really want to do on the highway. I love that this guy's got a big tent, and roll bar on it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, values on something like this is not a usable vehicle for anything other than a toy or an apocalypse. So, Michael Deeb, you got any idea on what you want to bid for this thing?
Okay, so just reading the tea leaves, the car is at $12,000 on, unfortunately, just 4 bids.
There's 6 bids now, apparently.
Okay, well, I still think there might be a little room left in this thing. So what's it at? It's at $12,550.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 15,500. I'm going to say 15,500. And there you go. That's my bid. But I'm guessing.
These, when the market wasn't weird, I have seen at Mogfest, because everyone that has one that wants to sell one is going to bring it. There's Mogs and all that kind of stuff. I've seen these sell for well over $30,000.
Oh my goodness!
So usually the asking price on something like this is going to be 25, 29 for a perfect one. It's going to be in the mid to high 30s. So seeing this one kind of linger at 12.9, I am happy that's on Bring a Trailer and not Cars and Bids. As much as I love Cars and Bids, I don't think the audience would have any idea what to do with this thing. Hopefully the right person is seeing this. Your bid was 15. What's that? 15.5. Yeah, 4 hours to go with 6 bids. I mean, I'm gonna hope that the right person sees this and sees the value of it, and it gets much higher than that. I want to see this thing. It's got to get over 20. If it doesn't, I can't imagine it sells. I don't know if this has a reserve or not. I'm going to go over you and say
it does have a reserve.
16.5, but I don't think it'll sell.
Okay.
Sadly. Yeah, sadly.
Right. Okay, cool. Very good.
All right. That is a day. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik. Over there is Michael Deeb. We are your Bid Nerds wannabe car experts. Join us every day at around the 9 o'clock hour live on Facebook and then on YouTube. We do this daily every week. So there it is. Again, check out our friends at Guys Custom. That's GYX_customs on the Instagram and buy yourself a really cool bracelet matched to your car or watch. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.